my wife and I have 4 children, as I mentioned, and our oldest is named Catherine. And Catherine, when she was looking at colleges, she applied to UVA. She had gone to the International Baccalaureate Program high school in Richmond at Henrico High School. And she got good grades and did really well and did a lot of community service, and she was a good candidate for UVA, and she was accepted. And so we were delighted that she was accepted. But in her application process, I guess she attended a Days on the Lawn or something of that nature, and we wouldn't know what that was at the time, but she came back and said, well, Mom and Dad, I know that you both were in the drum corps. That's how you met, because I met my wife in the Garfield Cadets Drum Bugle Corps. And she said, so she was very interested in dance, Catherine, and she said, I went to the marching band table at Days on the Lawn, and I picked up like an application form, an information form, and she showed it to me, and I looked at the form, and on the top of the form it said Director William Pease, and my jaw hit the floor, because 25 years earlier I had taught a young man, a very shy, thin young man named Bill Pease, and taught him in the Garfield Cadets Drum Bugle Corps. He was only with us for 1 year. I taught the cadets for 4 years. And that 1 year, we won our first world championship. So Director Pease, Bill Pease, has known about championship marching bands and marching ensembles for a long, long time. So it was really kind of a shock that all of a sudden, out of nowhere in Virginia, because the cadets were based in New Jersey, that Bill Pease was here. So I kind of wanted to check it out, so I called the number and I asked for William Pease and got him on the phone, and I said, is this Bill Pease? And he said, yeah. I said, well, this is Pat Zampetti, and I think his jaw hit the floor. And so one thing led to another. About 2 weeks later, I was just coming down to visit the band to look at a drum rehearsal. About 2 weeks after that, I was assistant drum instructor, and about 2 months after that, I was the director of marching percussion. So one thing kind of led to another. It was really neat for me to be able to connect with Bill, and the kind of the follow-up to that story is that we've got a real neat cadet connection here at the band with, I believe, 5 people on staff that were involved with the cadets, between our percussion arranger. That's a real good connection. We got Larry Cawley, who's kind of assumed my prior role as the director of the percussion section. Bill Pease, obviously. We also have Mark Guzman, who teaches the color guard. And so it's really kind of neat that we have all these connections with the cadets. And I think it's not a total coincidence that so many people with the cadets are now involved with a really top line Division I marching band. I think we all kind of seek the same things after our cadet experience, and this is part of it. We both put a few years on and maybe a few pounds on since our days of all-day rehearsal out on parking lots, but yeah, it was really kind of neat. And like I said, a lot of the stuff that we learned back in the cadets, I think, still holds true today. The way we work to achieve goals and the way we get a group of people to perform, I think that all still is valid. To see him then and to see him now is a revelation. And what he's been able to accomplish here at the University of Virginia is nothing short of amazing. And it just shows you that people can apply themselves, and don't read a book by its cover either, because Bill obviously had a lot of drive and determination within him to do what he's done in the time that I kind of lost contact with him. But he's all about the kids. That's been kind of a buzzword for us over the years. I told him I was going to make him a button that says it's all about the kids. It's kind of our stock answer to just about every question. And I think if you let the needs of the kids dictate your activities and your priorities and what's important to you as a teacher or an instructor, you really can't go wrong. Where you start to go wrong is where you start thinking about other things. You start thinking about what's important to you then I think you lose track of why we're really here. And I think we're really here to make these university students have the best possible experience they can, and maybe, just maybe, take something with them going forward that will benefit them later on in their careers. I know I have benefited tremendously from my marching percussion experience with the cadets. It gave me a lot of confidence, put me in a leadership role, gave me the confidence to start my own business 22 years ago, and I think back on it constantly. I also think back on the friendships that I created. I hope that the students at UVA can pick up the phone like I can and call someone that I marched with 30 years ago and talk to them like it was yesterday. So it's kind of a neat thing. I have to thank the current drum captain at the time, a gentleman by the name of Michael Purvis. He had been kind of a fixture in the drum line before I got to the band and was kind of a natural leader of the section. And I really tapped his talents and experience quite a bit to help me transition to the leadership role within the staff. Challenges, I think, have been what I'll kind of group together as what I'll call growing pains for the entire band. The band has gone from about a 250 or 260 person group to almost 100 more than that now, closing in on 350, maybe 360. And I think the staff has gone through growing pains because it's hard to scale some of the things we try to do, and it requires more effort on our parts. It requires a lot of pre-planning. One of the things I'm really, I kind of harp on is I don't want to kind of what I call freestyle in front of the kids. When you're not prepared and you're just kind of winging it, the kids are way too smart for that. They can spot that in a second. I really like to come fully prepared so that if something happens, we're prepared for it rather than responding in a reactionary mode. Because what I've found is that reactionary responses usually aren't as well thought out. And sometimes they're a little hard-edged. And I never want to get to the point where I'm treating the students as anything less than the great people that they are. And so I like to be prepared so that if something happens, it's not something that's going to send me into a spiral, because I kind of foresaw that it might happen and I know what to do. And I think that applies to not only the students but the staff. I think staff has to be able to work together in that same way, that same prepared way. We go into a game day at the CMB with a pretty detailed kind of game plan for a staff of where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be doing, preparing for things that are going to happen 2 hours from now by doing things, now, so that things are set. And I know that in your role at the band, you've been involved with a lot of the kind of nuts and bolts administrative end of getting things set. Make sure this water bottle is here, and make sure this traffic cone is here, and all the little details that might not be glamorous. But at the end of the day, they benefit the kids, because then the kids get to see something that's really organized and put together well. And I think they benefit and they become better performers because of it. A typical 2-hour rehearsal is closer to a 4.5-hour involvement for me. From door to door, it's about 1 hour and 10 minutes. I put 7,000 miles a year on my car teaching the CMB. And I don't know if everybody knows that. And I occasionally, I'll hear a student say that they, couldn't get a ride or something. I kind of cringe a little bit when I hear that, but yeah, it gives me a lot of time to kind of think about the rehearsal that's coming up, and then on the way home, I can either listen to recordings of the rehearsal or just try to think about what we need to do next. One of the things that's happened since I was involved in drum corps is the whole percussion arrangement thing has gone from kind of a written involvement, a written endeavor to it's all on the computer now. And so for up until really just last year, where I did a lot less in terms of arrangement, I was doing all the arrangements on the computer, and that was something I had to learn. And once I learned it, I really loved it, because you're able to test different arrangements, and you can even put the score from the wind players up with it, so you can kind of see how the percussion and the wind piece comes together. So I really enjoy that. And now I'm doing some more with a trio, and the bass player in the trio is a student at VCU, and he's using the computer to do arrangements of his own. So we're going to try to put some of his bass arrangements, and I'll try to score some drum set percussion and come up with new arrangements that we can play with the trio. The challenge now is time. And that's one of the reasons I had to step back. I was actually, as I explained to Mr. Pease, family life and business were suffering because of the amount of time I was putting in here. And I never felt comfortable letting the kids suffer because I was unprepared or I wasn't here when I needed to be. And so I kind of put them on priority, and sometimes my business didn't get as far along in a project as it needed to be, or I wasn't home enough to help out around the house or be there for the kids when they needed to do things. And so I had to make a change. So I got with Mr. Pease, and he's been extremely accommodating. I think he likes the fact that I've got, decades of experience, and I kind of work well with the kids. And so he wants to have me around, I think, for that aspect, if not any other aspect. But I've just done it now for a while, and I kind of can see what's going to happen. Also, our schedule is kind of driven by the student schedule. And so we know what we should be working on right now. Even though the students aren't in marching band right now, we know kind of the calendar of work that we have to do. And it really is year-round. Right now, Mr. Cawley's involved with some of the drummers in developing what we're calling the bucket band that will perform at halftimes with our top-ranked basketball team. That's going to be exciting for those kids because they're going to perform in more of a, more dramatic kind of environment where they're going to be able to express themselves a little freer than they would if they were in a marching band uniform, playing some wild drum beats and trying to get the crowd excited during halftime. And so he's been working on that, getting that up and running, and I think they're about ready to launch at one of the games that's coming up soon. And then in the meantime, I've been working with students that are seniors in high school now, and we're trying to develop their skills so that if they get into the school, they'll be ready to hit the ground running with the marching band. One of the really smart things that Director Pease did is each year we have a high school band camp, and then we also have a high school band day. So we give them kind of two aspects of our program. In the band camp, we give them the benefit of our instruction, and we teach them what to work on and how to practice and what's important to become good performers. And then at the band day, we give them the whole game day experience. And to go from maybe high school English class on a Friday to a Saturday morning where you're on ESPN is kind of a neat thing for the high schoolers to go through. But the benefit of this, keeping in touch with other high schools, is that we're starting to draw out the better talent from the high schools. And many of those students will apply to UVA, and some of them will get in. The hardest thing about getting into the UVA drumline is getting into UVA. And so we stress that when we meet with them over the summer. We talk to them about not only their academic progress, but we talk to them about their extracurricular work and community service work. And the neat thing about the band camp is there are different modules set up during the band camp, and they're not all instructional. Some of them are meeting with an administrator who's in charge of admissions here at UVA, and that administrator will give them tips on what they need to be doing to be a strong candidate. So I think we're kind of reaching out. The other neat thing the Drumline has done, not just recently, but for many of the years prior, is we get involved with an organization called Pancakes for Parkinson's, and we perform at their benefit, and it's usually early in the morning over on the lawn, and it's fantastic. You know, the kids get to work for a cause, and the crowd comes out to see them. It's just another way to be involved with the community and do something other than paradiddles and flams and all that stuff.